So what we're going to be doing is making a kind of stylized or hero poster. So what I'm going to want to do first is just go to, in Photoshop, I'm going to go to File and New. And I'm going to use one of their presets specifically for print. And the main one I'm going to look at is going to be tabloid. So the reason I'm using this one is because it's a pretty standard like poster size. Yes, there could be other sizes as well, but this one just is a pretty standard that would match up with that. So double checking to make sure it is 11 by 17 inches. And the color mode's RGB, which it is, so it should be good. So I'm going to hit create down at the bottom right. And this should give us a new workspace that matches up, again, with that kind of standard poster we want. Okay, so we have our poster. What we need is some kind of photo or character subject to use in the middle. I already found one that I'm going to use, and I'm going to do one that's Spider-Man. So I'm going to paste that in there. And I just found this by going to Google and doing a image search. So you can search for like Spider-Man or maybe like a hero or idol you have, really anybody that would work for it. Okay, so I have my picture here. I'm going to go ahead and zoom in just a little bit. And I'm doing that by holding Control and hitting plus to zoom in. Or you can hold Control and hit minus to zoom out. And so the first thing I want to do is remove the person from the background, or just get a good selection of our subject. So for this one here, I can either use the quick select, try to select just the subject, or even use magic wand on the background and try that. The background is a fairly simple one, so I'd probably recommend using magic wand, but I'm going to use quick select just in case you're using a different image. This should kind of work for that as well. Okay, a little bit more. So again, with quick select, anything that brush touches, it's going to try and select. So for instance, if I'm clicking and holding, going on the leg, but then move outside, you can see it got part of the outside of that as well. Make sure that's just at the default. Okay, so that is something you kind of have to watch for as you're getting your selection. Okay, this one's doing a decent job there. Again, it's getting a little bit extra, but I'm going to zoom in so I can make sure I'm really getting just the area I want. And again, if your brush is getting too much, just try shrinking your brush down. So you can do that at the top just by shrinking the size there, or by hitting the brackets on your keyboard. You can shrink it that way as well. Okay, let me go ahead and get a few more of these areas here. Okay, and I'm just going a little bit quick on it, just so you can kind of get an idea. Okay, get this other arm. Okay, and so with this one you can see that it did get a little bit too much, especially under the arm and the leg over here. Not a big deal, we can quickly remove those. So as a reminder, with any selection tool, up at the top you should have a add or subtract from the selection. It'll look like either a plus or minus. I'm going to go to minus. I'm going to click and hold, drag over the area I did not want. So you can see how it kind of starts to remove some of that. Okay, so this helps kind of clean it up just a little bit. Okay, brush a little smaller so I can get some of this area in here. Okay, did a little bit better. Okay, so again, it's not perfect, but it is pretty close to kind of what we want. We can always clean it up here in a second, and I'll show you what I mean. This one here, since it's just kind of a stylized poster, it doesn't really have to be exact or perfect. We just need to be close. So I'm going to switch back to add, so I can just get part of this arm back in there. Okay, so yeah, we can see it's still getting a little bit too much there, but not a big deal. Okay, so what I'm going to do from here is really we're just using this part here to get a basic selection. And so all we're doing is, because we want it to be a stylized look, so we don't really need the subject here, we're just using that to get our selection to start. Okay, so but we do have that selection currently. So I'm going to go to select at the top, or I'm sorry, not select, go to layer at the top, layer, new fill layer, and solid color. So the top layer, new fill layer, and solid color. Alright, if you want to rename it, you can, otherwise click OK. And I'm going to do this one as red. So you can pick any color you want. I'm just going to stick with this one for now. A little hard to see with that background, so I'm just going to turn off the background there. You can see a little easier. And so you'll notice when it adds that new fill layer, it already applies a mask onto it. So this first box just controls color. The second one's for the mask. And as a reminder with mask, anytime you paint with white or black, you can add or remove. So like when we did the new fill layer, technically this entire area is filled with red, but the mask is only allowing red to show up through this part here. So zooming back in, how we can use that is if we go up to our brush tool, go ahead and make sure these are defaulted to black and white. If they're not, just click these two smaller boxes here. That'll default them. But then from here you can click the arrows to switch between white or black, or hit X on the keyboard. But like, let's say I want to remove a little bit more of this here. And make sure my hardness is turned up. Quick, flows at 100. Okay, so from here I can start to go in and kind of clean up a few of these patches. Okay. So just kind of smoothing a few of those spots out. So I'm going to remove some of those as well. There's a little spot there. So really just smoothing a few out. Or if I wanted to add some back in, I'm going to switch from painting with white, because I want to add a little bit down here on the arm. Maybe kind of smooth some of that out a little bit. Okay. Again, if it gets a little bit too much, just switch it back to black, and you can kind of smooth that out there. Okay. So that looks pretty good there. Maybe tweak a little bit more on the head. Let me do that real quick. Okay, looks a lot better. Alright, so we have our subject. It looks pretty good. It is pretty small though, because really we want our subject to be covering the kind of upper 1/3 area of the picture. So I'm just going to use free transform for that. So free transform, go to edit, free transform, or Control T. Just going to scale this up a little bit. Just a little smaller. Okay, and again, if it's pixelating, that's not a big deal. Be sure to hit the check up at the top, because a lot of times when you do that, it'll kind of clean that up. Okay, so that looks pretty good there. So we have our starter person. We need to get a selection of this lower part, so we can fill that with a solid color that matches our subject. So I'm just going to use rectangular marquee, probably the easiest one for that. And I'm going to click outside the workspace, drag across, and have it overlap just a little with the subject, just so there's kind of some connection between the two. Basically, they'll flow together. There's not that separation. Okay, I have the selection. Same thing, I'm just going to do another new fill layer. So layer, new fill layer, and solid color. Again, that was layer, new fill layer, solid color. I'll just leave it on the default, click OK. And for this one, yes, I could visually try to get the color of red to match, or I can physically go in and click on this one, and then I'll get it to match it. So again, like let's say I was on orange. If I click here, it'll just pull that red color. So they do match. Okay, so I have that kind of basic starter look there. Now I just need to add some text at the bottom. So we go to the type tool, and I'll choose the horizontal type. Okay, I'm going to click once in the middle. You can do a text box. This one I would really recommend you don't. But if you feel more comfortable doing that, please feel free. It doesn't really make a huge difference. Okay, the text here is pretty small, so let's try doing 100. Yeah, it's a little bit better there. Okay, so I have my text, and what I'm wanting is I want it to be lined up on the left and right side. So, but let me add some text in that we can use. I'll just do a pretty generic Spider-Man one. With great power And let me hit enter to move down to another line. Comes great responsibility. Okay, and that text is kind of jumbling together a little bit. So let me fix that real fast. Leave that one there. Okay. Okay, and I'll talk more about these character settings here in a little bit. But for now, we have that part there. Again, so yours should default those spaced out. I've been kind of playing with these already, that's why it didn't. But again, I'll talk about that more in a second in case yours is doing that. All right. So I have my text here. They're each split into their own line, and I did that just by hitting enter. So for instance, if I clicked here, hit enter, you can see it's on its own line. But I want to make sure that it's all left aligned. So at the top, make sure it's left aligned. And what that does is make sure everything on this left side kind of follows a straight line there, or alignment. Okay. So basically that gives us a good starting point where the left is already taken care of. Now we just need to worry about getting the right lined up. So how I'm going to do that is if you go to Window at the top, so I'm going to go Window, and then to Character. And in here there's different settings or adjustments we can do that'll affect text. But let me do just one line here so you can kind of see what it's doing. First in here we'll control size, so I can make it bigger. There's ones down here that'll make it like bold or all caps. So I'll actually go ahead and make that one all caps there. There's some different kind of spacing options. We can stretch the text. We can adjust where it's placed. I can kind of center it up a little bit more. Okay. Same thing with this one. This will adjust the spacing of the actual kind of from it between the one like above or below. And this one will adjust the horizontal spacing of it. So that one's going to be nice because what we can do is adjust that and try to get it lined up with the one, the responsibility down there. Okay. And so I'm trying to get this last part of the letter lined up with that one. I could use a ruler guide if I wanted. So if you're on my rulers, if you don't see those, just go to View and then Rulers to turn those on. But if I click and hold on one of these, I can drag it over, just kind of to the end of that line there, so that as I'm spacing out this word, so I'm going to go back to that one, I can click and hold on the V and the A here for space out to make it match up. Okay, so it's just a little guide that'll help us as we're working on it. All right, do the same thing with this line here. Actually, I'm going to make that one a little bit smaller. So like it's not as important there. Okay, move the space going up just a little. Actually, let me try this other one. Might work a little bit better. Yeah, but then again, the V and the A there. And again, if you leave your mouse on it, should kind of give you a little more information on it, or just click and hold on one of these icons just to kind of play with those. So I'm just clicking, holding, and shifting to the left or the right. Let me try to get that one lined up as well. Okay, looks pretty good there. And as you can get this one here at the top now. Okay, we adjust its spacing a little bit as well. Okay, it's looking pretty good there. Yeah, I probably need to adjust the space on those a little bit more. You can see that some of them aren't spaced out quite the same amount. So I'm going to do that. Just see if I can get the spacing to look a little bit better on all of those. Actually, let me move this one down here. Shift this one up. So really, what I would recommend is as you're just learning these, just go in and play with them. And that's going to be one of the best ways to learn, is just to play with these different settings, and just really see what each one does or what it will do. That's really the best way to kind of learn some of these, because they are all a little bit different. So that's really, as far as just like starting out, that's what I recommend trying, is just doing that. Okay, try selecting the word here for power. Okay, shift it up a little bit as well. Okay, it looks a lot better there. Okay, and I'm going to move this ruler out of the way. So whenever we export our image, it should remove it anyway. I'm just doing it so you can kind of visually see that a little easier. Okay, and right now I'm on my move tool. That's how I was easily shifting that. If you were still on your type tool, so let's say I was still working on it, you can hold control and shift it that way as well. So just kind of a couple options there. Okay, so but again, we can see it's lined up on the left and the right now, just by adjusting that spacing. And so from here, I'm going to leave the text on white. If I did want to change it, on the type tool, make sure I have this layer active or all that text highlighted. I could change the color there. I'm going to leave it on white just so I'm staying consistent between my image. So again, we're trying to go for a more stylized look. So I want to keep the colors pretty simple. So like right now it's just white and red. Okay. So I want to add some kind of logo or decal at the bottom now. And so what I recommend is starting with the logo. And so you can just, again, do kind of like a Google search for, in this case, Spider-Man logo, or something that would match your character a little bit better. Again, I'm just going to do one on Google and then copy and paste it. I would try to find a logo that's a little bit more simple, just because it tends to be a little easier when you're working with it. It doesn't have to be. You can still use it otherwise. But keep in mind, we're doing a more stylized poster, so some of those different elements we want to kind of simplify down. Okay, so I'm just going to paste that one in there. So again, just find some kind of logo on Google. And for this one, I am going to use the magic wand tool, since it's just two basic colors. And so I'm going to get a selection of the spider. You can see it got pretty good. Overall, it looks like a good selection. So just like we did at the beginning, I'm going to make that a new fill layer. So I'm going to make a new fill layer based off this selection. So now I can turn off that layer so you can kind of see what it's doing. So selection, layer, new fill layer, solid color. Okay. Now I'll make the one white so it matches the other parts. Okay, and just like before, you can see it added a mask on top of that colored layer. So again, technically there's an entire layer of white right here, but we're just only letting a small part show through with the mask. Okay, all right, I'm going to free transform that one, kind of shrink it down a little bit. So again, the shortcut for that is Control-T, or edit and free transform. Okay, so I have the logo there. If you wanted more kind of additional designs next to it, we can use the pen tool, is probably the easiest for that. So on the left, I'm going to go to the pen tool. And just make sure it's not on path, but set to shape. And then I'm just going to do some kind of simple design here. So let's do like that. So I'm just doing kind of like a basic rectangular shape. I'm going to go ahead and fill it with a color. And I'll just use white for that one as well. Just again, staying consistent. Okay, so that basic shape there. To get the same thing on the left side, again, because I do want it to match, so I'm just going to duplicate this layer so that it is an exact copy. Then right click, duplicate layer. Okay, there. But now I need to move it over. Shift it over here. And you can see it's lining up pretty well, but it's not a mirror of that one. So the easy way to do that is if you go to Edit, Transform, and then Flip Horizontal. I mean, it is a mirror of that one. Okay, so we have a lot of those elements now. Only other thing that we need is the eyes. And I'm actually going to use the pen tool for that as well. So we kind of zoom into that one. And so what I would recommend doing is going back to your original image and kind of using that as you're getting your eyes. Or you can just kind of play with the pen tool. But how it works, so I'm still on shape, is when you click once and then move down and click again, it does a straight line. So basically I'm going to go back up here. If I click and hold and drag, it does a curved line. You can kind of see that one there. I'm going to do one of the eyes here, and another one on this side. So I'm just, again, moving and clicking so it does a straight line. Then click and hold if I want to be more curved. Okay, let me click off those. Alright, some on the right's a little bit rough, so I'm actually going to redo that one. Just going to delete it and start kind of new from that. Okay, and again, if you need to, you can always zoom in to get just a little bit better or cleaner job. Or even just refer back to your original picture to see how they did theirs on that one. Okay, looks a little better there. I know that one's a little hard to see, but when we add the background image here, you'll start to be able to see those a little easier, especially the right eye, or our perspective, that right eye. So let's go and do that now, actually, just so you can kind of see that. So what I would recommend doing is doing a Google search for some kind of related image or idea. So like this one, again, he's usually swinging from buildings. So I'm just going to do like simple cityscape, just so it's pulling up images that kind of match with what I want, but then it has usually they're more stylized or simple. So you could do search for like stylized cityscape, and that would work as well. But I'm just going to stick with this for now. So found one on Google that should be relatively simple. Just paste it in here. Okay, it's a little small, but it'll still work for the idea or the concept. So I'm going to use free transform. So edit free transform or Control T. And I'm going to shift it just a little. Okay. And so right now it is covering up our picture. So I'm just going to move that layer down. So again, this layer right now is at the very top. So I'm going to shift it down so it's closer to the bottom. Just so it's behind our subject as well as those eyes. So now you can even see the eyes showing up a lot better now. Okay, and so this is what I would recommend as far as making those stylized posters. But these are going to be the kind of main elements you want to include with that. Alright, so that's how you do a simple stylized poster. Again, you can do the same idea or effect for any character or subject, but this is really the best way I would recommend for doing that. Okay, if you have any questions, you can post them below, and I look forward to seeing you guys next time. Alright, bye.